This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we're checking out weaponry spanning centuries as we break down some of the guns of the Assassin's Creed franchise.
We have a cock problem, Dave.
We?
Sorry, we. Yes, we. Well, they, those people that make these games. It's just a big, clunky British bit of nonsense. It's the Edwardian Desert Eagle. This blunderbuss pistol is a little bit absurd. It's absolutely huge. Now, metal is heavy. You don't need me to tell you that metal is heavy. Metal.
The extended edition of this episode is nearly an hour and a half long, and you can check it out on our Patreon right now. Link in the description below for that. But without further ado, it's over to Jonathan.
It's a new design, my friend. A mechanism for your wrist, but not a blade. In fact, it seems to be a kind of arma da fuoco, but as small as a hummingbird. Is that possible? I have no idea. Let's build it and find out.
Right, so I gather something of an Assassin's Creed gun marathon.
Yeah, we're going to look at pretty much every Assassin's Creed that has a gun in it.
I remember this. Just casual flying machine chilling in the back there.
One of the earlier inventions that Da Vinci gives you is a gun.
Indeed, yes. Well, as far as we know, he really did invent the Wheellock, not the wrist gun version. Yeah, so we have, we don't know for sure that Leonardo da Vinci invented the Wheellock, but the very first depiction or mention, and this is a depiction, is in his sketches. Circa 1504 is the date attached to those. Weirdly specific for a circa date, but nonetheless, 1500, 1504. And it shows a tinder lighter for lighting fires, and it shows a gun lock with this spring with a wheel that you crank something between a half and a 3/4 turn usually, and the sear locks into a notch, and then when you pull the trigger, it allows that to unwind, creating the sparks via friction with a piece of iron pyrite that's clamped in a pair of jaws. In fact, this is actually way too late. This is mid-17th century, but the very earliest wheel locks, clearly beginning of the 16th century. But there's the wheel. There are the jaws, or the serpentine, or the dog, we might call it. Pan cover, from quite early on, they have automatic opening pan covers when you pull the trigger. So the pan is open there. You put your priming powder in there to create the initial flash, and you can see the teeth of the wheel. So this is a mid-17th century cavalry pistol, really perfected over the sort of thing that Leonardo was trying to depict there. But by the sort of 1540s, wheel locks are somewhat commonplace insofar as firearms are that commonplace. They're a sort of a rich man's game, and certainly the wheel locks are, because it's a lot of man hours to produce this mechanism, never mind the rest of the gun. The technology existed in this time frame, which is cool, and I appreciated the reference at the time. The Leonardo reference is great. That's as it should be. It would have been nice if they'd shown the sketch, or had that available in the menu. I don't believe they did as a sort of collectible item, to look at the real sketch of the real mechanism that Leonardo really did draw and probably did invent as well, given that most of the other stuff he draws, he invented. Fascinating bit of real history, which these Assassin's Creed games, the early ones certainly, were very good at riffing on. Now, it being tiny and wrist-mounted, closest parallel we have to that, well, there isn't really one until much, much later. Your sort of Travis Bickle type wrist-mounted guns, and even then, not exactly common. I like the mechanic of the longer the hold, the more precise the aim. Like, you can go for a quick shot, but it's slow to reload, so you're better off like trying to. Now, obviously, in reality, the more you dwell in the aim, the more shaky you would get and the less accurate you get. But don't forget, you are aiming your whole arm here. The reload is kind of fudged, obviously.
That'll be common throughout all the weapons that we see.
But, you know, for a sequel, the first sequel, nice upping of the stakes. We've got our wrist-mounted extending blade, but now we've got a gun you can build into it as well. So we have like the hint of a flintlock cock there, and maybe the hint of a frizzen pan cover kind of something, and some nicely engraved bits of metal and arty bits and a barrel, and I guess the blade of the hidden blade. and the straps and all of that, but we don't have any of the bits of a wheel-lock firearm, really, except maybe the barrel.
So this is another one of Leonardo's inventions. In Brotherhood, there's a bunch of quests that revolve around destroying his war machines, so other parties can't use them. It features the sort of circular tank with all the cannons coming out of it. That's one of them, and this is another one, his machine gun.
Yes, the so-called machine gun, I would need to go back to the history on this. Did he come up with some sort of centrifuge-style bullet-throwing machine gun? I imagine they've based that on something from his folios.
I know he did there's like a mounted gun that's many guns arranged in either a line or like a fan.
Yeah. Well, now that's one that he definitely didn't invent. So he invented his own take on it. But the Revolver, as it was called, is 100 years older than that, and was a known thing, form of artillery. And it then gets reinvented over the centuries as, musket barrels in a frame. Now, this is depicted as a gun.
Yeah, this is a gun.
A gun, yeah. Not clear how that's supposed to work. Oh, yes it is. I see. Sorry, that's me being dense. Yeah, so it's a vertical arrangement of barrel. A vertical rotary set of barrels. Each one comes down into the aim, fires. Next one comes into the... Yeah. So like a turret revolver on its side. That's, I think, a version of... Those are the right words in the wrong order. There is a version of that, I believe, sketched by him. And I think by someone else, even earlier than Leonardo. There are some pretty crazy artillery designs out there from the very late medieval, early Renaissance period, where they're sketching all sorts of crazy stuff. Just because people draw something doesn't mean that it exists in real life. We should say that.
Yeah, because I think his machine gun was the tread wheel. And it was like a giant wheel that men would sort of stand on to rotate, and it would sequentially fire crossbows. So this almost looks like a miniaturized version of that.
This is interesting. See, I haven't come across this because I only played 2. I did not play Brotherhood. So I didn't know that this was in an Assassin's Creed game. So I'm going to have to kind of do a bit of follow-up on this and see what the inspiration is. But given how loose the wheel-lock was to the real Leonardo wheel-lock, I'm guessing you're on the money there, that they've gone, well, it's like a rotary crossbow thing, so we'll turn it into a gun because guns are cooler and more modern. / mashed up with some of his multi-barrel designs that he did sketch. So, be worth looking at.
We dive even deeper into the weapons of Assassin's Creed in our Patreon-exclusive extended edition, which has 35 minutes of Patreon-exclusive footage. Join today and you'll also get instant access to next week's episode too. Becoming a patron comes with perks such as 1 week early access to all of our videos, Discord access, and we have over 85 Patreon exclusive Director's Cut episodes and a bunch more bonus content available right now. Either way, whether you join the Patreon or watch along here on YouTube, I want to say thank you for supporting us, and now I'll get back into the video. Assassin's Creed 3 holds up so well.
That's good to hear, because I still haven't played the thing.
Well, this is from the remaster, and I recommend it. I know people were iffy on it when it first came out. I really enjoyed going back to play Assassin's Creed 3.
I did actually buy it, I've remembered. I just haven't installed it. So, yeah, maybe I will. It is the 250th of the US. And I, last year, about this time actually, was able to visit Lexington and Concord, where the first shots of the War of Independence were shot, which this pair of pistols from this game is a reference to. So General, as it says here, Major John Pitcairn, he lost his horse and therefore the saddlebags and therefore his prized pair of Scottish steel pistols. He was a Scot himself, albeit by this time this traditional Highland style of pistol was pretty much the preserve of people like army officers, because the Highlanders in the Highlands had been deprived of their arms, but that's a different story. And Putnam is the US general who was given them. I believe they were offered to Washington and he declined them for whatever reason. So General Putnam then carries them for the rest of the war. Really nice, cool historical inclusion in the game. And from what I'm seeing in the menu there, at least in the remaster, they're quite well rendered as well. Bit of a treat. We don't have Pitcairn's pistols, but we do have a very similar... We have a good collection of Scottish pistols here. Not as good as the National Museum of Scotland, of course, but ours is pretty good. And we have a pair of very, very similar to the so-called Pitcairn Putnam pistols. So obviously steel barrel or iron barrels. It's just engraved steel, chiseled and engraved. Really quite beautiful things.
Yeah, I was expecting to see a lot of very beautiful firearms when I was putting this episode together, and you're not disappointing.
Not sure how our man has got hold of this pair of pistols. Guess he borrowed them for a couple of decades.
I think some of the inclusions are... you buy them from the shops, but because it's like the animus, technically if your ancestor had memory of the pistol, maybe they could just include that into the game.
It's the animus, not the matrix. So the reload here is a bit less fudged, I would say. We don't see a ramrod, but we do see something going on with the pan and the lock area, something going on in here. It's kind of enough to give you the idea that these things are muzzle loaded and single shot, which is why, of course, you typically carried 2 of them. And these guys have belt hooks, which is actually not super common.
The way the firearm flows into the melee combat as like a finisher or a one-shot kill, it works so well. Some Assassin's Creed games do it better than others. I think 3 and Black Flag are probably the best ones.
And that's really the strength of these relatively early firearms, is that they should be super powerful for 1 or 2 shots, and then you're back to relying on your edge weapons or your impact weapons or your fists or whatever, or running away. Yeah, that does look quite a good flow of combat, actually. Something a bit John Wick about the...
I was about to say, it's like period piece John Wick.
I mean, this is... I think this does speak to the history, insofar as you've got that one shot. You know it's kind of a functionally infinitely long bladed weapon equivalent to be able to do. So if you shoot from 10 feet away, you might miss. If, as they advised in cavalry manuals, you ride up and touch the muzzle to the enemy, you guarantee the hit and serious injury. It's essentially an automated sword thrust or lance thrust or whatever. Think of it that way. It's not so silly to be using it. Like, if you've only got that one shot per contact, per engagement, as it were, you better make it count. So if you have some skill, and they're not going to shoot you necessarily, get in close, do the grappling, do the edge weapon stuff, and then guarantee the kill, put them down with the pistol shot. I'm sure that was done. Maybe more of a naval combat thing, but that's cool. And he's doing it with style, with some Scottish steel pistols. Now, what do we have here? I'm sure there's something elsewhere or on display I could have chosen that'd be even better, but we have this is a pair as well, but I've just grabbed one of them. What we're seeing here is a side-by-side barrels, like a modern shotgun, side-by-side double locks, so 1 lock per barrel. It's the easiest way to do multiple shots at this period, and a somewhat similar spur butt-capped butt. So quite similar. This is also a French maker. Fair bit of French involvement in the 18th century in North America. Ah, no, I've misunderstood. So this is double lock, double barrel. The gun on screen is actually double barrel, single lock, which is functionally problematic because you've got one source of ignition that should fire both barrels at once. Or conceivably, you could come up with a mechanism that only fires 1 barrel, but you then need to re-prime and re-cock. There's no priming going on here. The pan and pan cover remain in the forward position at all times, whereas in reality, you would pour priming powder into there, close that pan cover so your powder doesn't fall out, so that you've got a striking surface ready here, and then full cock, and when you pull the trigger, scrape, sparks land in pan, flash, boom. So I haven't seen, and I can't envisage how it would work, a single lock with 2 barrels firing sequentially.
When I played this game for the first time back in the day, I recalled that one of my favourite things was fighting with a musket, both like melee, range, and flowing that together. And then trying it again in the remaster, I was like, it's still so cool.
It is cool, and I remember the version of that from Black Flag. I hate the musket in this. Like the way it's implemented as far as a single shot and then like a half pike staff weapon thing, that's absolutely correct as to what it was as a weapon. Why they made Brown Bess look like a Kentucky rifle is beyond me. There's so much source material to draw upon, and we have this massively curved drop butt, a patch box on there. I don't know if the artist was tasked with coming up with like a fowling piece for colonial forces, militia or whatever, and it ended up getting used as the musket for the British Army. It's far too elaborate. It's the wrong shape. It's a bit of a shame, but I can't argue with the combat, the animations, the way it's handled. I do happen to have, I have not grabbed a bayonet for it, but this is a pattern 1756 land service musket, which is the type that would have been in use at this time in North America. It's just a clunkier, chunkier, simpler weapon than what we see in the game, with that distinctive, what they call handrail butt there. It's just such an iconic firearm. I remember at the time feeling like it's a missed opportunity to not do a faithful version of it.
Like being able to disarm an enemy with a musket, take the musket into your own hands, point it back at them, fire, and then engage in melee. And how that flows together.
Yeah, that jumping backstab there was quite impressive.
Yeah, obviously we can't know for sure, but I'm assuming that no redcoats were doing moves like that.
I think we can be pretty sure. So the complex manuals of fencing, systems of fencing weren't devised until later and were kind of always optional, really. The standard things were, guard, parry, thrust on the ground, not this kind of thing. Not even kind of throat stab necessarily. The only thing that's kind of maybe ahistorical, other than the jumping stuff, is probably the slashing with the bayonet. Again, I wish I'd grabbed one actually, but those are thrusting weapons, those socket bayonets. You could absolutely slash with it and it would be nasty, don't get me wrong, but it has no cutting edge on there. Fighting moves that are sweeping cut with something that's just a point, not very efficient. You're far better off working in this plane or over the head as they train to do, certainly when they're in line. So you can come in here with some leverage and maybe clear one of your friends in front of you. Then again, would it be nearly so cool if they'd stuck rigidly to what the drills of the day were? Nah. It's nice to project back, especially as we are, if it's us doing it, we are a modern day person inhabiting essentially the body of well, not really, but you know what I mean. We can in theory improvise and do stuff that didn't exist at the time. So now this is this part of the main game or is this DLC? Because this is a different part of the...
It was a spin-off called Liberation.
Oh, vaguely rings a bell.
You play as Aveline, an assassin. One of the big points of this game is that she was born to a wealthy French father but an African slave mother, and you can change your outfits to blend in with... You can put on a slave outfit, which means you're more covert, going through factories and other places that the elite might turn a blind eye to a slave being there. But it also means your weapons change. So you need much more covert, easily hidden weapons when you're playing in that role, which is why you have a pocket pistol. You're limited to a very, very small weapon. But then when you're a lady of the elite, you have a parasol gun. So it's a weapon disguised in a different way. It was interesting the way that they'd tweaked the equipment that was available to you based on what role you're playing and what you're trying to blend in as.
That sort of situational loadout thing, I think it can be a bit frustrating if it's just dumped on you and you're, well, I want all the cool stuff I had. But I broadly approve of that, because the whole kind of magic bag of holding thing is when you're quite immersed in the period and the technology, and suddenly you can just pull out the same suite of guns you've had all the way through. These games do it well in that you can grab a musket off a soldier and use that, but then you have to throw it away and you're stuck with what you've got. And the idea that your outfit dictates what you carry is absolutely the case. This is why pocket pistols, which is what we've seen the character using here, were a thing. It's not always culturally appropriate, necessarily legal or desirable to be carrying around a set of horse pistols or a Blackbeard scarf full of smaller pistols. Realistically, and I know this is not a realistic game, but you would have the one concealable, single-shot weapon, and then you'd have fists or whatever edged weapon you're allowed to carry or able to carry. So I love that situational approach. Now, the pocket pistol looks to be brass-barreled. Little bit of a kind of artistic license there, not copied off any real one. I would urge game designers to look at our online collection, contact us or other museums where you are, and copy it off something that exists, because then you're going to nail it. This blunderbuss pistol is a little bit absurd. It's absolutely huge. Now, metal is heavy. You don't need me to tell you that metal is heavy. Metal. And so to make the barrel that thick and bulky relative to the size of the stock, bearing in mind it's a one-handed weapon, is not really very clever. You'd have to make the barrel walls very, very thin, and then that would limit the amount of charge you could shoot. Either a huge piece of shot, because real blunderbusses were used to shoot huge pieces of shot, or more typically, smaller pieces of shot, but lots of them. Either way, it's a mass of stuff going that way, and the pressure required to launch that at the required velocity to be lethal at a given distance means barrel bursts. So apart from it being a little bit of a mashup style-wise, it's also not particularly plausible size and bulk-wise. But I've noticed in the Assassin's Creed games, generally, they will play with scale. I think so the thing looks more impressive and more visually appealing in that third-person view. So that's probably a deliberate choice. What's not a deliberate choice is, yet again, we have a cock problem, Dave. Sorry, we. Yes, we. Well, those people that make these games have a problem insofar as, yet again, we've got. So let's have a look at a much more plausible blunderbuss pistol. Let's get this thing out of the way first. So this has a nice spring bayonet. I know you're going to want to see me do it, so there we go, just the once. Let's put it back out the way. But it is brass barreled, it does have the flared muzzle, a bit like the one we see in the game, and it does have a wooden stock that's stocked to roughly the same distance. It's much more plausible, smaller caliber, flared muzzle to aid in loading of shot, not, as far as all available evidence shows, to make the shot spread more. That's limited by barrel length, powder charge, nature of the shot, much more than it is any kind of flare. So, problem we've got here, our cock problem, is that pretty much the gun is depicted like this. So, at rest, unloaded, unprimed, nothing in the pan open, cock forward. When he loads the thing, now you can skip it straight to full cock, like I've done there. Prime your pan, close your pan. It should fire from this position. And I don't think in any of the Assassin's Creed games does a flintlock actually fire from this position. So we're shooting into the air, which was the style at the time.
Screaming R.
Yeah, going R. I can't believe I missed that one. Yeah. I like the it's not particularly realistic, but I like the sort of vortex ring of smoke. Like a smoke ring.
When you fire sequentially, all four pistols, because at this point I have got all the four pistols to upgrade across the course of the game. You start with one, you get a second, you get a full belt. If you fire all four, like the fourth shot, you can't see what you're shooting at.
Yes, and an oft trumpeted disadvantage of black powder weapons. It's not a disadvantage, but it's kind of overstated. I mean, if you're one sharpshooter behind a hillock trying to engage an officer or something, then yeah, you don't want the puff of smoke, the pall of smoke to be there so that the guardsman can go, he's over there where that pall of smoke is. But in any kind of larger scale combat, some smoke in the air, if there's any kind of breeze, it's going to dissipate. Yes, under very heavy combat, a thick pall of smoke could develop, especially if it's a still day, might be a problem. I think it's overstated. Good that they represent the smoke in the game, though. And I think in this fantasy scenario of a one-man army, where things have gone wrong stealth-wise, the idea that you could make enough smoke to make life difficult for yourself is plausible enough, and a fun bit of gameplay. Now, this is probably my least favourite thing. Now, I don't know what Ubisoft think a Wheellock is, but it isn't this. What they've got there, and I've still got my blunderbuss pistol in my hand, is a flintlock. Notice the flint and the lock. That's a flintlock. It's got a cock, points to cock. It's got a pan cover. Wheellocks have a pan and a pan cover, but it's not a pivoting cover like this. Reverting to this wheellock. This is a wheellock. Do you know how you know? It's got a wheel on it. It's got a round thing. There's no round thing on this pair of pistols. They're also kind of overly stylized in look anyway. And when he shoots them, the cock and the pan cover don't do the thing the flintlock pan cover and cock are supposed to do. So it's not a good flintlock, and it certainly isn't a wheellock. Did that impair my enjoyment of Black Flag? No, it didn't, because Black Flag was brilliant.
You just use different pistols.
I just used different pistols. Quick final word on the wheellock pistols. So it isn't just the name they've taken. We do see Edward hand cranking something. Don't know what, but so I have to wonder if there wasn't a model change somewhere in development here where they designed something with a wheel on it that could be turned by hand. Wheellock springs are too powerful to turn with your fingers. The only ones you can span, it's called spanning, and you use a spanner to cock them. We have some beautiful ones in the collection if you'd like to have a look at our website. Chiseled and carved and engraved and everything. Kept separate, they're not on the gun, they'd be tucked into a boot or hung from the belt, something like that. The only self-spanning wheellocks have a great big lever, so it's almost like a giant flintlock cock type setup. And when you crank the dog down onto the pan cover, because remember the wheel spins with the iron pyrite in place, it's not a snapping mechanism at all, it doesn't fall and make sparks. The thing that makes sparks stays put and the wheel turns under it. There are those with a lever where as you lower it down, that cocks the spring, and that requires a ton of strength to do. So it would be a single arc, like a very strong cocking of a hammer kind of animation, not this kind of thing. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of what a wheellock is, but not as fundamental as representing them as flintlocks.
So I don't think I appreciated back when I played this back in the day that the pistol swords actually shoot, and they have specific moves within a combo that includes Kenway shooting the gun part.
I don't have any in here with me, unfortunately, but we have 3 or 4 of them in the collection, and we have some photos that hopefully you can show people of those. They come in lots of different styles. One common style is a pistol barrel alongside the strong of the blade. So you've got, the best ones actually are sturdy swords with a pistol built into the side of them, so you're not compromising the structural integrity of the edged weapon part of the combination weapon. Combination weapons are rubbish, generally speaking, but there are a couple of these pistol swords that make you think, for something light and fast, like a hanger type of sword, cutlassy type sword, maybe having that one shot on there is a good idea. And I think the depiction in this is pretty good, actually. Now, don't think we have any accounts of anyone ever using a pistol sword, or a pistol knife for that matter. I have no memory of using the pistol sword.
I think I used them, but I definitely didn't appreciate that there was extra detail in them actually firing. Like you see at the end of the item description says that it finishes with an explosive combo, or finishes a combo with an explosive finish. And you see sometimes with that final stab, pulls the trigger, you can see it fire, and it does extra damage. So it's an interesting way of adding that extra damage mechanic by using the gun part.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, now that you slowed that down, so that's like a finisher on that guy.
The gunshot and the flash and the smoke is much more muted, and like you say, when you're surrounded by a bunch of different enemies, it's easy to miss that detail, I think.
Fire! Captain, the whole place shut down! Fire! Cannon ready!
I think there would have been riots if I didn't include at least some ship footage as well.
Yeah, now that's the swivel gun there. Not bad. Doesn't quite look like any swivel gun I've seen. We have some at our Fort Nelson Museum, by the way, if you want to check those out. Bit stylized, but recognizably a swivel gun with a tiller on the back. The cannon, the naval guns on their carriages look pretty good. And the naval combat was just so much fun in Black Flag. Different types of shot.
It's another thing we need to thank Assassin's Creed 3 for, bringing that into the series. The boarding, it was so much fun. Like climbing your own mast to get an advantage, and even like using the ropes to swing onto enemy vessels and taking them into your own.
No, it was all very good, and I don't know why they didn't just do it again for for the other game that shall not be mentioned.
You there! Stay! Where you are.
Now, I don't... That looks like it's supposed to be a Girodoni air rifle.
Yeah, so it's silent. It's called the air rifle. I think it's basically standing in place of the blowgun that you get from Black Flag. For the most part, it gets an upgrade later.
Yeah, because I've just seen someone get poisoned by it, or like
it's shooting darts
by it.
Yeah, sleep darts, berserk darts.
Okay. Yeah, so they've gone, oh, there's this cool historical air rifle. We can use that as a substitute for the thing we already did. I'd rather they hadn't done that, and I'd rather they represent it as it actually was, which was a lethal repeating gun with 20-something shots that could penetrate a plank of wood at 100 yards, i.e. kill you. So to make it this less lethal thing, yes, of course, you could like adjust the valve and not use a magazine system and load a dart. It's not implausible, although it is implausible that you'd be able to consistently put someone to sleep with medication at distance. But anyway, they have sort of based it on the Girodoni. The buttstock air tank is quite visible. The cock/hammer/valve release is roughly how it is on the real thing. We have 2 or 3 of these, I think. Maybe, one is on loan, I think. None of them where I am, unfortunately. Something we need to cover on our channel at some point. But the buttstock unscrews. It's not really a buttstock. The butt bulb unscrews, and you attach a pump to it, and you stirrup pump the hell out of it until it's got enough air pressure for, lethal force, at least. It was not silent. Powerful air guns, powerful enough to kill a person, or a deer, or whatever, make quite a loud pop. Anyone who's ever shot an air rifle knows they're not silent. They're not this quiet. It's a noticeable pop. I mean, the big 50 cal air rifles, it's essentially a bang. You are displacing, you're creating a pressure differential when you shoot the thing, just similar to when you shoot a gun, but without the explosion happening, obviously. But there's still high pressure inside, low pressure outside. That rapid change makes a pop or a bang. It's their own version of it. They've pivoted to a less lethal version. It doesn't look that much like a Girodoni anyway, so I'm not offended.
Well, this is positioned as a stealth weapon in the game, all the way up until you get a grenade launcher attachment.
Yeah. An air gun grenade launcher is a bizarre concept.
I mean, you can get sleep grenades, but there's also just grenades.
Sleep grenades. Oh, so it does. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess you could launch a grenade with air pressure. I don't think it would have a huge range. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. Ah, okay. The duck's foot pistol. So this is, the way this is implemented is huge, frankly. We do have one this big. It's a butchered wheellock from the 17th century that someone in the 18th century thought it would be a good idea to graft 4 barrels onto the outside of, and is a travesty in that respect. The one that this is modelled on, or the type that this is modelled upon, is this. Now, it looks quite big in true Father Dougal fashion when it's close to the camera, but when you see how big it really is, and that's typically how big they are. So they've effectively scaled one of these up. They've even included the key notches, which are for screwing off these barrels. These are loaded like a pocket pistol, powder in the chamber, ball sits in the cup, barrel goes on top, and then a spanner that goes in the muzzle to tighten it up. That's not rifling, that is a keyway, essentially. And they've copied that on this. So how does this play out in terms of the spread of the shot?
You can hit multiple targets. It's hard to do it on purpose. If you hit someone to the left or right of the guy you're actually aiming at, it's sort of like a bonus. I imagine in reality, I mean, it's not great to keep a firearm safe that just goes that way. But you can, in theory, shoot other people, and obviously it's very high damage because it is shooting multiple shots.
Which I think is realistically more the purpose of if they ever had a purpose beyond being a novelty. You're going to get, well, I don't know. See, the displaying would say otherwise, and would say that it's about hit probability. So I guess I have to say that. But I did once put a laser down the barrels of this one and like stood 2 meters away from a wall, and the spread was such that you could easily miss all 4 guys in front of you, or hit all 4 guys in front of you.
You're either missed by it or you're missed by it.
Minced. Minced by it. Yeah.
For now, we're going to need weapons.
Just leave that to the professionals. Where did you get that?
Now this thing, this axe gun, lots of variations on this. We have 3, I think.
I like that they call it the guillotine gun because that makes it slightly more French.
Yeah, well, you could, I guess, try to chop someone's head off with it. This is more elaborate, funnily enough, than my favourite axe gun in this collection. That's something that only I can say, really, isn't it? Don't take it for granted. We have a Swedish-Danish naval, like very early 19th century, boarding axe gun combo. Really, really cool. We have a video on that. It's filmed a long time ago. It's not very good. Maybe we'll redo it. But you might want to check that out. This is much more elaborate, bigger, more powerful. Looks robust enough to actually function as an axe with all of that impact and shock, and as a gun. Now, in this case, it's actually a hand mortar or grenade launcher that's also an axe. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen one of those that wasn't some sort of replica. I'm not sure I have. Combination axe guns, though, yes, and they were even military issue or naval issue in Scandinavia. So they're a real thing. Rather bold to combine an axe with a grenade launcher, but it's a bit chunky and a bit fantasy in its style, I would say. I prefer one that's styled after a historical one, but it works fine in the game. It's not implausible, looks the part. The animations go nicely with it.
Yeah, I was going to say that the normal sword fighting's very sort of considered and flowy, and it's sort of like saber and rapier fighting, and then you get this thing and it's just ka-chunk. You can also shoot it while in melee, but it's not recommended considering the effect it has.
I like the way he flips it before he stows it on his back. And we've actually got some leather loops that he's putting it into as well. It's not just floating there. Albeit good luck trying to locate that thing in the... It'd be like... You boy, help me with my grenade axe. I remember this. This is a slightly quirky take on a Pepperbox. Double lock, 8-barrel, apparently a revolving cluster of barrels? I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I wondered if that like wrist motion is meant to imply that it revolves.
Yeah, I think it is. But either there's a mechanism that turns the cluster of barrels, like an actual Pepperbox, which this isn't, or it's manually rotated, which we do have. Multiple barrel, manually rotated guns were a thing at this point, for sure. We have some. But 2 locks? If you're rotating it into the next firing position for the next set of barrels, let's say it's grouped into 2s, 3s, whatever that's supposed to be. It'd have to be a group of 4, wouldn't it? So, but then why would you need to turn it? You would just fire one side with one lock and the other side with the other lock. There's no consideration, again, here of why we have a lock mechanism versus why we have so many barrels. And it's just like almost literally hand waving the reload. Like, ka-chunk, something's happening, don't worry about it. The design of the gun's really cool, looks good, looks plausible, until you start thinking about how it would actually function. And of course, we're getting many more shots out of it than is plausible for the number of locks without re-priming, re-cocking. Pepperboxes weren't a thing at this point. Volley pistols were. Revolving barrel clusters were. Even fixed barrels in front of a revolving cylinder were a thing. But not guns that revolve a barrel cluster automatically, or certainly guns that revolve by like flicking the wrist. Bit of an odd choice. Syndicate. I was excited for this, coming off the back of the big steampunk craze. Not that it is really steampunk, although it could have been more so, given the ancient civilization magic stuff. But anyway, we got a nice mishmash of Victorian firearms, many of them out of period, because this is 1880s, is it not? Too early for things like this from 1904. So it's the Mars pistol. The one in the game is highly decorated. I'm not aware of a lavishly decorated Mars. I wish I was. Plenty of real estate, nice flat surfaces for you to do that with. And they've done a nice artist's job of making it look a bit bling. in the game. Nice, relatively obscure, clunky, early self-loading pistol to put in a Victorian game. It's a bit awkward and heavy for this kind of dynamic combat, but this is essentially a 45 Magnum, or close as you could get with period propellants. A long case, relatively high pressure, and then I think the main problem that's complained about in trials with the recoil is because of this gubbins that comes shooting out the back of the gun and how high over the bore that is, and that gives you a ton of muzzle flip and what was apparently some very uncomfortable recoil. It's just a big, clunky British bit of nonsense. It's the Edwardian Desert Eagle, but it's very cool, and I'd like to do some more research.
I'd not actually heard of this gun before. Well, it's not called the Beaumont Adams in-game. So in-game, this is simply called the 54-bore 1856 revolver.
Okay. So it's introduced in 1854, if I remember correctly. Not 1856, but close enough. It is one of the few firearms I own myself. Is not this, but it's its predecessor, the 1851 Adams. Far better revolver than the Colt, all day long, but it costs a damn sight more as well. The Beaumont Adams is so called because it has patented features introduced by Beaumont, notably the ability to... It's essentially a modern double-action revolver. The old-fashioned Adams was self-cocking only, so you pull through on the trigger. Really lovely triggers on these. Cocks it, fires it, no spur on the hammer. The Beaumont Adams, as adopted by the British Army, gives you that essentially a modern double-action revolver in the 1850s. Percussion, I should say. Still percussion. So we are capping 5 nipples, and we are muzzle loading 5 chambers. We are ramming each ball firmly down onto its powder charge. So very laborious to load, very quick to shoot. And this is the era, not exactly, but along the lines of what we see in Syndicate. You've got one of these with 6 shots in a holster on your belt, and then you've got a sword, and plenty of accounts of British Army officers fighting with sword and pistol, revolver pistol.
Yes, this Pepperbox you can actually use as both knuckle dusters and a gun.
Yeah, that's a thing. I think we've put one in a video, but don't quote me. So there are the brass knuckles, or steel knuckles in this case. And there's my Pepperbox. With, as well, so we convert it by locking what's now the grip into the frame. Trigger folds down. Got our Pepperbox revolver. Pin fire, so instead of a cap in the base, a pin sticking out the side of each of the chambers. And a non-functional double action mechanism. The hammer is there, no spur. And then we also have on the side a little bayonet. So 3 weapons in one. It's called the Apache, named after the Parisian gangs that apparently wielded these. Now in reality, that's a very weak cartridge. You could empty this into someone, stab them a few times with your 2-inch blade, punch them in the face with the knuckles, and they might still kill you.
Another one for the grave digger.
Right, now, actually my favourite pistol from Syndicate, because it's a favourite in real life, the Lancaster, the best version of which is the 4-barrel version. We've got a video on our channel about it, and actually about a similar rival version. And the one in the game is pretty good. So if you don't know about it, it's instead of a rotating cylinder, it's a rotating striker, and you've got your 2 or 4 barrels, and the striker pulls back and fires, and pulls back and fires, and pulls back and fires. As you pull the trigger and it's pulled back and released, it's hitting each one in turn. Very clever, kind of pointless, but very cool. Looks very cool. Anyway, we have a number of Lancasters. We're blessed to have a number of those. But the one I want to show you is a bona fide Assassin's Creed Lancaster. You can see the logo there. Yeah. There's the symbol. This was made for the Assassin's Creed movie in 2016. It was made for a case. We don't have the case, but we do have the pistol. So we acquired this as part of our pop culture project. It is made unusually out of carved wood and cast metal components. So, I mean, it's a little kind of rough and ready. Yeah, quite an unusual prop. It doesn't open up, or at least doesn't open up anymore. I don't want to mess with it. It appears to have been permanently blocked shut. At the moment, this is our only video game gun in the collection. Kind of. It's made for the movie, based on the video game series, and it doesn't look as nice as a real Lancaster because it's a prop. But it's cool to have nonetheless. But yeah, the Lancaster, great choice for Syndicate. It's one of the most Victorian firearms ever invented.
Yeah, 4 quick shots was definitely useful when bobbies and blighters were swarming me.
Yeah, so what I can't demonstrate on the prop is you press the lever and it breaks open like a shotgun. Ejects the 4, in this case, empty cases, put 4 more in, snap it shut, crack on.
See the smooth barrel and handcrafted trigger. Made by craftsmen in Nagahama.
An impressive copy. More than a copy. We have improved it.
So we don't have any Japanese muzzle loaders in this bit of the armories. You'll see some on display and we have some stored elsewhere. It's actually a separate part of a separate department that looks after that stuff and knows about that stuff. This looks pretty spot on to what I know about the Japanese matchlocks. I don't get the flavor text of smooth barrel and handcrafted trigger. Like, literally the whole thing is handcrafted on account of they don't have machines. I will say, this might be the best model of a firearm in all of the Assassin's Creed games. Not my area, but I've handled a few. That looks spot on. You can see the pivoting pan cover in the open position, the match holder, the way the match is looped, possibly even through the stock. Some of them have a hole through the buttstock for it to pass through. So the whole depiction is really good. The history is pretty good. Like, not, in fact, it is good. It's just not kind of delving into the little known earlier stuff, which is fine. The only real complaint is the kind of handcrafted trigger is just something you'd say to fill the dead air. Ramrod. We actually see a ramrod for possibly the first time in the series. Quite like the way the firing and recoil is depicted as well. A flash and spark from the pan and a pivot downwards because it has no buttstock. These are cheek stocks, essentially. Now, the skins are a little bit outlandish, although the barrel, the dragon mouth barrel, is not without real parallel. It's just the scales and the spines down the top that are a bit over the top, but it's not too crazy.
Well, because this is the era of Assassin's Creed where it's an RPG more than it is a sort of action game, there needs to be variants of everything that get cooler and cooler as, you know, they go up in rarity.
Oh, yes. There is the match loop through the buttstock. Or the stock. Not technically a butt, but yeah. I guess it's still the butt of the gun. It's just not a shoulder stock. Anyway, that's that feature I was talking about. Unique, I think, to Japanese matchlocks, where it goes through. These are also snapping. Now, some of the earliest matchlocks, like our Mary Rose style Italian matchlocks from the 1540s, have serpentines that you cock back and the trigger drops them, just like a later flintlock. That was kind of abandoned in Europe because it was just more reliable and cheaper to have a mechanism that squeeze against spring pressure and that dumps the match into the pan more reliably, more positively than a little dink. These are actually patterned after Tinder lock matchlocks. The Cap and Ball channel on YouTube has some great content, or hopefully still has. It had some nuked by YouTube, sadly. Some great content on these tinder fired guns and the fungus tinder that they would roll and stick in the holder. That's why it's shaped like that. The Japanese adapted essentially to a round section cord of match that goes through it, but they originally were designed to hold almost like a cigarette of dried fungus. So fascinating bit of history, and that would smolder away like a bit of match and be more convenient actually than a big loop of match cord. That's why they are shaped the way they're shaped. But yeah, as much as I might prefer Black Flag, say. This is probably the best depiction of muzzle-loading firearms that the games have done.
That move you saw there, so I think the implication is that he's pouring extra powder into the weapon to make a more powerful shot.
Right, yeah, I mean, why not? You can do that. These things are... I mean, I'm not familiar with Japanese processes, but in Europe, they were proof to way over the service charge. So if you were mad enough, you could overcharge them. Diminishing returns, though, you probably wouldn't get a worse wound out of it, really. You just get a more bruised shoulder and maybe bulge the barrel on your gun. So, but it's not implausible. Like if their service charge is safely under, and maybe you need to shoot out to a greater distance, or someone is particularly covered in muscle and fat and armor, maybe an overcharged musket or arquebus would do the job. It's a good... There's enough reality there for me for that to be a gameplay mechanic.
Well, the other move that you can do is throw a bag of gunpowder into the air and shoot it to make it like a little airburst grenade.
Interesting. Not terribly realistic, but interesting. Now, not impossible that I guess especially if you've got bullets wrapped in paper or something combustible and you shoot them, they might still be burning when they hit the bag of powder. Otherwise, there's not going to be enough heat in a concentrated point to flash powder. I wouldn't have thought, especially not midair.
The biggest advantage that the rifle, the gun, affords you in Shadows is it can defeat armor. How it's represented in gameplay is it knocks pieces of armor off, but it's a good way to strip the armor from your opponent and take that advantage away from them.
Not really how it works. If your gun is capable of penetrating a given piece of armor, it's capable of incapacitating the person that's behind the armor. This idea of knocking armor off is very gamey, and considering how realistic the gun is, broadly speaking, that's a little disappointing, actually, and how low the damage seems to be just generally with it, but different gameplay balance, I guess, for a different game.
Thank you all for watching. Let us know what other games, movies, TV shows, or beyond you would like to see on the show. Like the video if you enjoyed, and of course, subscribe. As always, a massive shout out to all of our wonderful supporters over on the EXP Patreon, without whom we simply couldn't make cool content like this. Links to support Jonathan and the Royal Armouries will also be in the description below, so make sure you check those out, and come back next week for another episode. But until then, thank you again for watching, and I will see you very soon.
I've got the clear shot!